Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for me to introduce the guest of honor for today. The guest of honor happens to be Mr. Arun Maira, who is the former member of Planning Commission and is a very well-known thought leader. Mr. Maira has an unusual combination of experience as a hands-on leader, a consultant to leaders, and a thought leader on subjects of leadership and institutional transformation in private, public, and social sectors. He has written several books on institutional transformation, and he writes regularly in journals. Mr. Maira was a part of Tata Administrative Services for 25 years and held various positions in Tata Group till 1989. He was the first non-Bhumiputra CEO in Malaysia when he worked for Tata Industries from 1977 to 79. Mr. Maira was board member of Tata Motors from 1981 to 1989 and played an instrumental role in Tata Motors' entry into the LCV segment. He then worked at Arthur D. Little for 10 years, where he was the leader of Global Organizational Practice and Managing Director of Innovation Associates, a subsidiary of Arthur D. Little. Mr. Maira served as the chairman of the Boston Consulting Group in India from 2000 to April 2008. He was then appointed as a member of the Planning Commission of India in 2009. His focus here was on the development of strategies related to industrialization and urbanization. Between 2000 and 2009, Mr. Maira was on the board of several companies. Presently, he is chairman of Help Age International and an advisor to several civil society networks. Mr. Maira was born in Lahore, in undivided India on August 15th, 1943. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Arun Maira. Can we have Mr. Maira on the screen, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you for the introduction. And congratulations to the Indian Society for Quality and its leaders, and to Janak on your 25th anniversary. And I congratulate all the winners of the awards today, knowing the reputation of Janak and the Indian Society for Quality. Have no doubt that you deserve the awards that you have got. I congratulate all of you. And yes, I heard the excuse or apology that Janak felt he needed to make, that there were so many Tata Group winners. And I am proud to say that I am also a Tata man. I started my working life with Tata Steel, in fact, in 1965. And as mentioned in the introduction, I had spent the 25 best years of my life with the Tata Group. You are celebrating your 25th anniversary by having a very thoughtful discussion on the subject of rebooting quality for competitive India. In the last few weeks, Janak has been talking to me, we are old friends, about his disappointment with the leaders of India in industry, their seemingly dwindling interest in the quality movement. And he asked me to tonight speak from my heart what I feel the Indian Society for Quality must now consider doing. This morning, Janak described the long journey of the quality movement in India, which, as he said, is now at a crossroads. He mentioned the meetings in Srinagar in 1984. He again reminded us even tonight about Dr. Irani's seminal visit to Japan in 1989. In 1982, before those events, I had visited Japan when a leader of the Tata Group, Mr. Sumant Mulgaonkar, had been invited by Professor Ishikawa and others. About 30 CEOs from around the world had been invited to spread the seed of the quality movement around the world. And Sumant Mulgaonkar, the great Sumant Mulgaonkar, being quite old at that time, said that it's time for younger people to get charged up. And he got permission to nominate me in his place, even though I was not a CEO. And that was a very seminal introduction to me, just as this was for Dr. Irani, on what is the essence of quality. And I began to realize something there which has stayed with me in my life. It's the essence of quality that one must keep on searching for and applying, rather than learning and applying the techniques of quality. In 1996, Dr. Krishnamurti and Janak created the Indian Society for Quality with the mission of quality for prosperity for the people of India. And now the question is, why has the Indian Society for Quality not been able to have much impact on the lives of people of India? I must at this point acknowledge Dr. Krishnamurti, the visionary. He had invited me for formative meetings in sales headquarters in Delhi with him and a few others. This is again before 1984, around that time. As Janak said, I also acknowledged him this morning, the great Dr. Krishnamurti, who's now 95. It's been a long, long mission in his life to make quality the way of industry in India, as well as the quality of the way of leaders of India. And Janak mentioned that in Japan, they have been through a ice age in the quality movement, and that juice had to refresh itself in 2012 by putting industry leaders in charge rather than government nominees and government leaders. Dr. Krishnamurti set up in India the Quality Council of India in 1997, where he cajoled government to support a semi-autonomous, a not-for-profit, autonomous organization called the Quality Council of India, which would be managed by industry leaders. The first chairman of that organization was none other than Ratan Tata. The second was Venu Srinivasan, who again has been acknowledged by Janak this morning as being a great leader of the quality movement of India. The QCI had its ups and downs since then, and it was apparently, as Dr. Krishnamurti realized many years later, not having an impact on the lives of Indian citizens on the scale that it should have had. And he encouraged me to become its chair in 2011 and to see how QCI could be re-energized and dedicated to its mission, which was quality for prosperity for the people of India, the same mission that the Indian Society for Quality has. Janak this morning has described the conditions of the Indian citizens, of the citizens of India. He said the per capita incomes of citizens of India are lower than in Japan, in Korea, in Taiwan, and China. The question is why? Is it only because Indian industries are not competitive in export markets like the industries of those countries are now? There are many, many reasons why the condition of Indian citizens is not good. They include the quality of health services, education, sanitation, their general living conditions, and the quality of livelihoods that they have access to from which they can earn outside industry. Indian citizens will not get the improvement of their lives and the conditions of their lives much from the amount of software that India's excellent companies export. They have, and as we've honored Nandan so correctly, he has built, along with his colleagues, an organization of great excellence in all respects, admired around the world. And yet, in spite of even that great organization, and let me say TCS of the Tata Group in the software business, our software organizations have proved to the world that Indians can do it as well as anybody or better than everybody. And yet, the condition of Indian citizens is as Janak described this morning. The reason is that India has not progressed. The reason for India not progressing as fast as other countries from the perspective of its citizens is because it has not attended to fundamental human development matters. To fulfill its mission, therefore, the quality movement must be focused on what matters to all citizens and not just on what will improve the competitiveness of Indian industries. Mr. Narendran, who I heard this morning, gave some very good insights into how quality is improved in industry to make it internationally competitive, as Tata Steel has become the leadership of Dr. Irani, then Mr. Muthuraman, and now Mr. Narendran, and with support of the excellent people, Sunil Sinha and Anish Gupta, who we've honored today. And what were the things that I learned from him, from Mr. Narendran's very thoughtful speech this morning, which would apply to improving the quality of India? The first, he said, that quality, the movement of quality must be relevant for everyone in the organization. The question they would ask is, how does quality improve our working conditions? And therefore, remember what Dr. Irani said. I'll first take care of the roofs that are leaking onto these workers before I talk to them about something so esoteric sounding to them as quality. As Mr. Narendran said, the goals and the outcomes of the movement must be relevant to the people. It must be the movement, and its language must be the language of the people, not the language of quality experts. The second lesson I got from Mr. Narendra's address this morning was something that actually Janak himself had said, that in Japan too, there are no dedicated lifetime quality professionals. Quality is not a career. Working people take charge of driving the quality through the organization for a while and then return to work at another level in another place. And so quality is just imbued in the organization. It's not a separate profession or a career. These are the two things I heard him say. And I learned the same through my long association with quality movements here in India and also internationally in the United States and Europe, where I had the privilege of being a consultant in quality to the leaders of big companies there in the West. And I'm going to share this evening what I have learned since my engagement, my long engagement with the mission of quality for over 5 decades, about what is the essence of quality and its relevance for the prosperity of the people of India. And I will share it with you in 3 stories. The first is the story of a secretary in Bharat Heavy Electricals, the company that Dr. Krishnamurthy had led and built so well. And when quality was introduced into Bharat Heavy Electricals in Bangalore, and Surinder mentioned also in BEML, the public sector undertakings there, this lady who was the secretary to, I believe, some senior executive, she was not included in the training because the training was for people who were, in production or in maybe their materials management and distribution. But she was seeing all the materials pass through about the manuals that were to be distributed. And she was very curious and a good learner. She learned some things and made some notes for herself. And that evening, one evening, she told her children that she had learned something which could be used to help the family improve something that was bothering the family. So she asked the children, what is it that bothers us the most? And they said, Daddy, when he comes home in the evenings, is always very grumpy and difficult to be around with. So that's the problem. Then they used the method of why, the three whys, and put up a fishbone diagram with their concern at the head of the diagram, and through the various whys, put the various reasons that could be contributing to this condition of the unhappiness of the family due to grumpiness of father in the evening. And then they did some systematic experiments by changing one variable at a time and then discussing a day or two later what they observed about whether the condition had changed. So very simple methods that could solve something that mattered to them. The second story is the story of villages in Jharkhand, where my friend, the late Mr. Jawar, of the chairman of Usha Martin Black, took me to show how, while his company, inspired by Tata Steel, had been applying the methods of quality in its operations, he felt that maybe the villages, the poor villages of Jharkhand could also be helped by introducing total quality ideas in the villages. So there in the villages, he showed me how the villagers, who were many of them not even literate, were making pictures on boards in which they were putting down, in pictures sometimes, the things that were concerning them that they observed didn't seem right. Picture of water, picture of plant, rice, picture of dirt, picture of girl, picture of school, and so. And then putting together linkages between these. How is this linked to that? How is that linked to the other? So determining from that the feedback loops, that if this improved, that might improve. If this doesn't improve, the other, even though it's improved, will become worse. And determining leverage points for collective action, which if they were to concentrate action on, the impact on the whole system would be very high. And so they had determined at that time, this is in the turn of this millennium 20 years ago, I think that's when I went with him, that water, the quality and availability of water was the key problem. And if that were to be improved collectively, then incomes would rise. And incomes rose, then girls need not be kept at home to supplement with other work. And education of girls could improve, and so on. And so they, with this, found that they could collectively, and here supported by the industry people, get the government departments, and there were about 150 government schemes that were applicable to every village in Jharkhand, to guide the government departments, say which schemes matter to us now, and to get those ones focused for the time being so that the water situation, for example, would be improved rather fast. And they measured then, and this was measured then by the United Nations, the UNICEF and some others, of what was the improvement in the all-round quality, that is incomes, girls in education, and the productivity of their fields, of the villages where quality had been introduced by these simple methods compared to neighboring villages. So it's like the random controlled trials that we now lately have learned is a good way to make assess and make change in complex systems, that these villages' incomes had risen to double that of neighboring villages in a period of 4 or 5 years. So this is how quality can help improve the lives of the people of India. The third example is a very much more recent one. It is during the pandemic, we've all been very concerned about our children not being in school because, well, for medical reasons, it's important that the schools maybe remain closed, or if they are not closed, then a very restricted amount of education can happen in the school. And as far as possible, we were saying, do the education at home using technology. The poorest children don't have access to sufficient space in school, nor do they have access to technology. So they would be the worst affected during the pandemic. Their education would be the worst affected. But surprisingly, in one state, that's the state of Goa, the government schools, and they cater to the poorest people and people generally in the remote areas, most of the government schools continue to function throughout the pandemic, while observing even more strictly than other schools the medical protocols of masking, of distances, of not having too many people together in a closed space for too long. How did this happen? How did this happen? This is remarkable. How did this happen? Because before that, there was an organization called Adhyam Quality Education Foundation, which had been working with local communities and local government people in the state of Goa to put the principals of the schools in charge and helping the principals, teaching them to be systems leaders and applying the tools of quality to determine who needed to be most included in determining what was required to be changed in the system, which is the teachers, the parents, and the government people then understanding from them what the government should focus on to do. And thus, they were able to change the quality of the system of education in these rural and some city schools, government schools, in the way that the outcome that is expected from a school, which is improve the learning and the education of a child, was improved, remained available and was improved. So I'm coming now to my experience with QCI, which as Dr. Krishnamurthy had wanted to be a movement organization which would impact the lives of Indian citizens. And in QCI, we had two wings, one concentrating on quality in education and the other concentrating on quality in health. But I noticed that both those were very focused on the methods that we knew of how to get quality improved in an institution, which is to improve its processes, Six Sigma, and improve its processes. Put them down, have protocols, people should be trained in those protocols, observe those protocols, and that's it. So that was their approach to improving education, and similarly in hospitals for improving health. Whereas what we need is actually improving the quality of the institution, the design and quality of the institution itself, so that it's focused very much on the purpose of the institution and with respect to the outcome, the purpose, measuring back to see what must we change in the architecture of the institution, the design of the institution, so that it can fulfill its purpose more effectively. And within that architecture and design, there are processes, and those processes, the critical ones, must be managed with all the tools that we know of process improvement. So the lesson is, it's the quality of the system to fulfill its purpose of existence, for existence, that the quality movement must focus on. Quality is in the design of the system to fulfill its purpose and not merely in its processes. So I come to the Indian Society of Quality. It must now reflect honestly. It's at a crossroads about the quality of the design of the ISQ itself. Does it fulfill its own purpose, if its purpose was quality for prosperity for the people of India? One, again, from Mr. Narendran's lessons this morning, it must match its goals with its stated lofty mission, which is not improving the competitiveness of industries. Second, how is it organized and how is it led? By experts or by leaders of people and people who are leaders? It's time to refresh the energy within the Indian Society for Quality. Third, what are the tools it must propagate to enable leaders of change all around India to improve their own lives? So ISQ's mission, quality for prosperity for the people of India, perhaps needs to be rephrased, at least in its own mind, if not publicly, as quality by the people of India and for the people of India, not quality by quality professionals for the people of India. It's 25 years now. You are at a fork in the road and you need a strategic solution. And I know something from strategy that if you want to make a difference, take a road less traveled. And I'll end with a little bit of poetry. My favorite poet, Robert Frost. And this is the last lines of one of his most beautiful poems, The Road Not Taken, where he ends by saying, somewhere, ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So if I were to ask you to imagine ISQ in India 10 years from now, ISQ as a part of the lives of people in India 10 years from now, what is the path that you must take to get there, to achieve your ambition of quality by the people of India, for the people of India? So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It has really been an absolute honor
I'm not
to have
hearing
you
anything.
with us this evening. Mr. Janak Mehta would like to have a small dialogue with you.
Sure.
Over to Mr. Mehta, please.
May Arun take some more of your time, please?
Janak, it's been a pleasure getting back and knowing you the last few weeks and having these profound thank you.
I think what you referred about Quality Council of India, I was one of the authors of formation of Quality Council of India. There were 4 members. I was the only one from industry. I traveled Europe to understand how they're doing it. And we developed this concept in India. And the Europeans said, this is the best concept you could have developed.
I can't hear you, Janak.
Okay. I said, I traveled around Europe at the invitation of European organizations as a part of this was funded by European Union. The setting up of Quality Council of India as a network in India. So I was a member of that team, and actually I wrote bulk of the report at that time. And we had conformity assessment was one, and National Board for Quality Promotion was another. So it was one of the conditions we put that it must be led by a business leader. And that's how Mr. Ratan Tata became the first chairman of Quality Council of India, and Venu as the second. But somehow, since government funded it, they took control of it. Also, what happened was when you became the chairman, and Dr. Krishnamurthy and myself, we were trying very hard to reposition Quality Council of India for the way it was intended to be. And in that context, National Board of Quality Promotion was suggested to be made a separate organization with independent members. That's one of the reasons Dr. Krishnamurthy said, keep ISQ as a low profile. We'll restructure Quality Council of India. Under your leadership, everybody agreed except one director, for whatever reason, and he was the chairman of the National Quality Promotion Board. And we failed to do that. I spent 3 years of my time trying to work in that direction. Anyway, once it didn't happen, that was my second attempt for formation of a national body like JUICE or JSQC. Today is my third attempt. First was in 1984-85 time frame. But I agree with you. What we need to do is quality for the people of India and by the people of India, especially those who are at the lower end of the strata. And that needs a lot of funding. And that was one of the reasons we formed a National Board for Quality Promotion under QCI, where 50% funding came from industry and 50% from the government. Well, so be it, it didn't happen. I think we have an opportunity to take charge of it ourselves. And if we can get the industry involved, because to do something like this for the people of India, it's need resources. And I believe ISQ can play that role if we can develop that resources and we have people who are committed to spend their time pro bono working in that direction. And I would need to meet with you, seek your advice. We are at this turning point. We are looking at a new chairperson for ISQ. And once we have that, then we'll collectively discuss. And we have formed a steering council where Dr. Irani is a member. What we've done is the past recipient of Jamshedji Tata Quality Award, Dr. Irani, Mr. Muthuraman, and Venu Srinivasan are members of this. So is Ramanathan. We would invite you to be a member, and we will set the direction. We are waiting for.
I'm sorry, Janak, I have to interrupt you. That's, to my mind, not the way it's going to happen. And yes, you're right about the experience of the Quality Council of India. Yes, I also got to know it very deeply. Naturally, I had to. And you also helped me with the information that you had, and Dr. Krishnamurthy was always there. And so, you got to think about your role very differently. And I've sort of suggest what it is. Let me say to you that in terms of organizations that are actually improving the quality of the lives of people in India using quality tools, there are hundreds in the country right now. They don't need you. Okay, you are seen to be, as you want to be, concentrating on industry and getting industry leaders and celebrating quality in industry. And you said so. It's the competitiveness in Indian industry. It's very necessary. I'm not saying going away from that. Then stay with that. Stay with that. But the other one, the bigger one, what role can you play? It doesn't start with resources, and it doesn't start with the board. It starts with reimagining what the movement is about, what is required to stimulate that movement, and what role with limited resources you can play as a catalyst to stimulate that movement. So when you think of it in this fashion, then you say, how does a catalyst operate when it stirs a movement in which there is already plenty of energy, to align it, to energize it, to have a greater impact? What role does a catalyst play? What sort of people are required to play a catalytic role who are not, like I said, experts, world-recognized experts in the language of quality? So think again. I say, if this is not what you want to do, that's all right, because quality is required to be improved in many things, including industry, and must be much further improved. But if this is your mission, this was my point. I've learned this. You have come to the crossroads, you'll have to stop. And before, therefore, even you find the chairman is to be aligned with and to lead the direction in which this organization needs to go.
Thank you. I understand that and I appreciate that. And that's where we'll continue to have a dialogue with you to find a way out strategically, since you are a strategic thinker, and we'll find a way. That's my commitment to you. Narendra, would you like to say something?
No, I think it's a great time. 25 years is a good time to reflect on the next 25 years. And I think it's when you have such a lofty goal as, as we have here, quality for prosperity, I think then we really need to look at, in a true quality spirit, what are the goals we are chasing and how do we get there? Because it can't happen by just driving quality in corporates. So I think there's a lot to reflect on if we have to achieve that goal.
Thank you very much, Arun, for your time. We appreciate your thoughts, your ideas, and with your permission, we'll continue to engage with you to find a way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for including me. And I hope to be here spending again good quality time with you, Mr. Narendran, and others. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.